Hello, everyone. Stacy Casson here, also known as the Clarity Concierge. For those of you who can't see me, I am a very tan woman with short, wavy salt and pepper hair. I have in a white flower hair. I'm wearing clear glasses. I have on a black tank dress with orange flowers, and there is a red background behind me. And we're going to start off today, like we always do, by just taking a moment to come into our bodies and be present. So we'll begin by taking a deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. And we will begin by starting out with the Pokemon card of the day, kind of thinking about what are some potential things that we can look out for or focus on as we go out through the day, like what can we set an intention about today. And we have Gliscor. This is a fighting Pokemon. Gliscor looks like a cross between a bat and a lobster. Yeah, it's like a bat, flying bat Pokemon with lobster claws. It's flying over an island. There's blue sky behind it. And this is a fighting type Pokemon. We've gotten a lot of these over the years. So trying to figure out what exactly are we fighting for. Perhaps this is a fight or flight. So this particular Pokemon observes its prey while hanging inverted from branches. When the chance presents itself, it swoops. This looks pretty menacing. However, when we observe goals, the things that we want to do, are we observing them? Have we put ourselves in a position that we can see our goals? A lot of times, maybe we just jump into something without doing some observation first. I know I'm definitely guilty of that. And this particular Pokemon, though it looks menacing, it looks very focused, very eye on the prize as it's hanging out up there, our bat lobster Pokemon. And this one looks like it's ready to go. Looks like it's swooping down at this moment, and it has a finishing stinger. I don't like to immobilize people to get them on board, but it's also, I think, important when I'm reflecting on this card is how often do we focus on our goals so much that we forget about the impact that it could have on other people, like kind of like tunnel vision or laser focus. I don't know if I like the word tunnel vision, but when you're so laserly focused on something, you might miss some insights about what's surrounding you. Even the picture of Gliscor is solely focused on this vampire bat Pokemon um, up in the air. So, like, yeah, it's important to have goals and to want to succeed, to feed yourself and things like that. But at what expense are we doing this? And do we view other people as prey? That's something to think about as well. Like, are you just, you want to get in and get out, or are you trying to co-create something with other people? So that's something you can consider as through our day to day. Yeah, I'm going to sit with that one for a little bit. One thing I learned yesterday is, despite our previous talks about pausing and reflecting, I think I have let the fact that this is a live stream make me a little more reactive versus responsive. And I should be modeling how to work with these things and sit with these things So I'm going to do a better job of that and just take a moment with the cards that we pull up. So I'm asking for understanding, not forgiveness, understanding in advance. If I take a moment with them and allow more of my intuition to interact. And I hope you'll give yourself, I ask that you give yourself permission to do the same thing. The other thing that comes to mind when I reflect on Gliscor is perhaps it is a fighting Pokemon, and perhaps we are in a fight or flight situation reason. Do you feel like you're being watched or that you are in danger, that there's someone out to get you? I mean, that is a possibility. We live in a world where you think you're just walking down the street and people can't attack you because of your skin color or because of your gender identity. There's a lot of legislation out there right now that is like specifically in where I live, that is specifically targeting transgender people and women in this country. There is global action people just for existing. So I think this sense of menace, I kind of get a sense of menace as well, can also come into play when we're thinking about the energy that we're getting from Gliscor. And if you stay state that someone's coming to get me, that's very damaging for your health. Even though that's potentially true, what can we do to help us manage that situation? In another session I've done, we talked about facing our fears. We talked about naming what is happening. And sometimes the people that are out to get you, they have the benefit of our silence or not speaking up. And I recognize that is also a challenge. A lot of times, especially women speak up about situations where gaslit, oh, you can't take a joke, oh, they didn't mean it that way. And we kowtow to the situation. So when I think about fighting, I think about not backing down when you are speaking your authentic truth. I think about knowing when to fight. I had a great discussion with Michelle Price yesterday, and we're talking about people with martial arts training. In some of the books I read, their point is not that they're super cool and they can, use their moves and take you out. A lot of their time is spent with restraint. It's spent with how to circumvent using deadly force. And that is a real skill. Gliscor is what its nature is, right? There's a story of the scorpion, because this also kind of looks like a scorpion too. It's a vampire bat, scorpion, lobster, very pincer, very, this is not a soft and cuddly Pokemon. So do we want to be Mortal Kombat, finish him? In fact, on one of my other lives, somebody asked me a question. It was a relatively innocuous question. And I think I got on my high horse. And my kid was like, Ma, you could have approached that with curiosity. And I said, I'm right. And I was reflecting on that today. I have such a reaction to it? Is it that I didn't want to be associated with the kind of question this person was asking? So is it really the question that they're asking, or was it my response to it? Like I said, it appeared to be a fairly innocuous question, but given the that we have today, it could have been a very charged question. But did my response continue to charge it up, to put in the stingers, or could I have handled this with more curiosity and openness? So that's something that I'm sitting with today. And you all can put your own questions in the comments. I'm going to remind you to stay hydrated today, so I'm going to stay hydrated. And we'll continue on. What I questions, normally I use, well, let me tell you what I do. I am the Clarity Concierge. What is that? I'm somebody that helps you to trust yourself. A lot of times we have the answers within, but we don't give ourselves permission to trust our instincts. We spend so much time in doubt, and having a conversation with somebody who holds space for you to explore your own thought process and maybe ask you, no, I will ask you questions to help you get to a different perspective, different outcome. I use Pokemon cards and other tools to help unlock your subconscious. I am very much about the idea of play, because play takes away the high stakes. There is an amazing example of scientists were trying to figure out how to fold DNA in a certain way. I forget, I think it had something to do with cancer. I would have to look up the story. But they put it out to the public as like a game. And gamers were able to solve in a matter of weeks what scientists were working on for years, because we bring in the aspect of play. You bring in new perspectives and new connections when you bypass the gatekeeper of logic and this is how things are supposed to be, and you kind of delve more into what's lying beneath. And it's coming out today, we're talking about the dark energy Pokemon. This is a navy blue card with a blue glowing sphere and a crescent moon. And so when we're thinking about what's coming up this week, what are those underlying systems and forces that maybe we're not aware of that drive our life? It could be policies, it could be design, how our world is designed gives us nudges for things. Like we have stop signs, we have traffic lights, or we have roundabout things to slow us down. You have unique entrances, one-way streets, right? There's a lot of design that impacts our behavior. The weather can impact our behavior. Maybe you haven't noticed or recognized that you have a different energy level on days when there's sunshine or when it's not so sunny. So there's a lot of factors impacting us that we're not necessarily aware of. And taking a moment to reflect on how you're perceiving your world, and is that an accurate perception? That is the way that you can gain more control over your life. The other thing is, what are the subroutines running in our head? What are those automatic programs that run and perhaps are impacting our ability to connect with other people, our ability to achieve our goals? Definitely working on the fear of rejection subroutine. And I don't think I am being as open as I think I am. I honestly think I'm an open book. I have a whole series, Ask Me Almost Anything. You can ask me anything and I'll answer your question. And people have asked me some strange questions, some actually trolly questions, but I still try to embrace it. And some of them I just refuse to answer because that is none of your business. Boundaries are important. And like I said yesterday, working with Michelle Price, and we have discovered the zoop, and it goes like this, zoop. And that is when that wall just comes right down, not having it, disassociating. But I'm recognizing that the zoop also keeps out all the good things that can happen in my life, to fully be in a moment, to experience. And can you imagine experiencing joy only in your head and not in your heart? What does that look like? I can't tell you the last time that I have laughed until I've cried. It's over a month ago, and we should have those kind of belly laughs every day. And I do try and find something to laugh about on a daily basis. So I have to do a better job about finding joy. Not a better job, but again, being more open and, woo, lifting up the zhup to opening it. Maybe I can't open it all the way, but a tiny crack, progress on those things. And for how to navigate that, we had the fire energy Pokemon card. And this was about being aware of the different levers, especially once you become more conscious of what self talk is going through your head, being more aware of how you're being nudged and manipulated. Like even just going to the grocery store, they design the aisles in a certain way to keep you in there, to keep you engaged, to keep you. Notice how you are responding to your environment. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Maybe you went in for one thing and how the store is designed. Now you're wandering, you're meandering, and you come out with 20 things that either you didn't think of or you didn't think but because of maybe how the store is designed, it triggered some of your impulsive behavior. And let me tell you, those are really good shortbread cookies, not gonna lie. Almost on par with mine. So when we're thinking about fire energy, it's about where we directing our energy and who is controlling the levels. So I've learned from this random video on survival a little bit about building fire, and fire needs kindling. So you need appropriate fuel and a spark, and then it needs oxygen. Now, a good fire does have, it looks kind of like this. It's a damper. I may not be, I'm not a survivalist, but it's a lever that you kind of set your sticks so you can adjust the inflow of oxygen in the fire. And it's then important that you're putting the proper fuel on the fire. A lot of times wood retains a lot of water. If you put damp wood on the fire, you're more likely to get smoke. A smoky fire, it could sputter and maybe even go out, but you're not burning your fuel source as effectively. And if this was indoors, the smoke can, I don't know if it'll give you carbon monoxide poisoning, but it will definitely tar up the chimney. I don't even have a chimney. I'm in Florida. We don't need chimneys where I live, but it clogs that up and can cause other forms of danger in your home. So paying attention to what are you putting on your fire? Are you nourishing that correctly? And are you in control of the fire? If there's too much oxygen, it'll flare up, and that could catch people unawares and eventually cause the fire to spread outside of its containment. If there's not enough oxygen or not enough of a fuel source or the proper fuel source, then your fire goes out. So as we're going through this week, thinking about those subroutines running through your head, how your environment and the design of the world around you impacts you, and then you can respond accordingly. If you don't know what is happening, then you are not responding to the fullness of the situation. You are maybe responding to a symptom instead of digging down into the root cause of what's happening. That's why the pause is really important, to sit and reflect about what's happening. When I'm more successful, I remember to take a moment before I start something and ask myself, what am I trying to accomplish? What is successful for me? And this is challenging because so much of our day, well, so much of my day, I can't speak for your day. Your day might be living by the seat of your pants, but my day, there's a lot of routines. Go into a workplace, I have certain tasks to accomplish, and it's really easy to put it on autopilot instead of thinking about what am I doing? And that's where we get complacent. Yes, we have to do these tasks, but do we always have to do them the same way? have we considered that there's a better way to do the task? And I'm not necessarily running into efficiency. Sometimes I think efficiency sucks out the soul of what we're doing, and we miss out on opportunities. I was having last week, my blog, we talked about conflict resolution, and I work with a team that is, they work a completely different shift than I do, and we have asynchronous communication. So I bit the bullet and said, hey, let's get on a call and let's talk this out. Let's have some strategies around this. And being in the same room, well, it was virtual because we don't work in the same state, but being in the same space together where we could have a conversation was very helpful. We were able to break down some misunderstandings. In some situations, they didn't know how to address if there was a mistake or any issues. They didn't have a way forward. That was really helpful because we had an intentional conversation and were present. When's the last time you were fully present in a conversation and working together to finding consensus and a common goal? That is something I'm going to pay attention to, and you should consider that as you go through your week. I don't have any questions in the chat, so I'm going to use one of my go-tos. It's not an automatic because I'm going to be very reflective on it, but let's think about what we can all consider in our lives that you would find helpful. And we're starting with the Fairy Energy Pokemon card. This is a pink card with a glowing pink sphere and a stylized flower. It looks like a tulip, and the petals could also be like carrying hands. And there is either a diamond, bud, starburst. I also get neural synapse in the center. And to me, this card is associated with healing. And this card has been coming up a lot. So as you go through your day, you may not have Pokemon cards, but what issues do you see constantly coming up? Do you find that you get to certain points with people and everything shuts down? Are you constantly overbooking yourself? Do you always get stuck in traffic? What are the things that keep coming up for you? And we're talking about healing. So I think that ties in nicely to those underlying systems that we're not aware of. There's some big ugly ones out there like racism and sexism and ableism. But again, there's also the ugly ones in our head where we have that subconscious programming of I'm not enough. I deserve this. Nobody likes me. Nobody believes in me. Everyone's going to think I'm stupid, or those kind of situations. So it's important to acknowledge them. That's those undercover systems, so that we're able to move forward from those systems. So that's around healing. What is a potential goal then? What's the goal with healing? And we have Shelder. Shelder is a clam, and Shelder just kind of looks like, I'm over it. His tongue is out under the water. Shelder is a water Pokemon type, and I see the word tackle. So for me, that is perhaps tackling some of these strong feelings or some of these things that lie between the surface. And according to the Pokemon card, the hardness of its shell surpasses the hardness of a diamond. In days gone by, people use the shells to make shields. I think this ties in again to the zhup. When do your shields go up? And Shelder is open, right? It's an open clam. So how can we open up a little bit to allow the healing to come in? And Shelder kind of looks over it with his tongue sticking out. It looks like a big whatever. But it could also be an invitation, right? The tongue could be an invitation to draw in, a prey or food or some kind of sustenance. I don't see a pearl in Shelder, so it's not necessarily irritated. So that's something to consider. A goal might be to tackle some of these feelings and breaking it down maybe to fun steps. You can make a game out of noticing, I don't know, like you know how, I don't know if you've watched, okay, where I'm from, there was a show called Pee Wee's Playhouse. And Pee Wee was a kind of child man in a suit, and he had the word of the day. And he would tell the kids show, if your parents say the word of the day, you just act wild and goofy. So perhaps in your brain, in your inside voice, because I think if you did this in the workplace, but who knows, if you notice the hidden emotion of the day, you could do the crazy dance. So for me, the if I notice the zhup, I can counter it with something silly or my own secret code. And maybe you can keep track of it to see how many zhups you've had or whatever your particular struggle is. So that's one way to tackle it, is just to be aware of it, observe it as we go back to Gliscor, not in a menacing way, but at least observing those actions so we can figure out a strategy to deal with it. And the reality for me on observing things is that doesn't mean the same as doing it. So let's look at some of the other realities. And we have Carvana. Carvana looks like a really angry angelfish crossed with a rock, and it's come out onto the shore. And I'm hoping it's going to go back to the shore. But this is definitely an aggressive Pokemon, even though it's a water Pokemon. This is, its power is bite. So when you recognize something, you definitely get resistance. So this Pokemon, each school has its own territory. Any intruders are mercilessly attacked with fangs bared. People get into our feelings. Sometimes we do jump back, right, and fight. But it might not also be our feelings. It could be some of that subconscious programming might be our interaction with other people. And we might trigger something else in them, can come at you and attack. So kind of pay attention to, are you the one jumping out of the water to bite somebody, or is somebody else trying to bite your head off? What 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 is closing you up? Why are either you putting up your shield, or why is the other person putting up their shield? And what role did you play in that outcome? This is interesting on the healing topic. Okay, so then what are some of our opportunities to deal with this, address this? And we get Flussel. These are super cute. Okay, these are little, I don't know, mice rabbit Pokemons. There's a pink one and a yellow one. It's an electric Pokemon, so it's positive and negative charges, and their power is attack boost. And I think this just reinforces that idea of being in community with other people. So this one, it cheers on friends with pom poms made of sparks, and it drains power from telephone poles. Who are the people in your life that enter you, or who are what are the situations that power you up, and what are the situations that drain you? So when we're thinking about opportunities, I definitely think growth and healing is a team effort. You don't have to do this alone. Who's on your team? Who can support you? Who can you support? Because in one of the other talks, we talked about when we're down and overwhelmed, helping other people can give us the language and vocabulary to help ourselves. So many times I have talked with people, and one day I was visiting my doctor and I was under the weather. And basically, she said to me everything I've ever said to her about rest and healing and taking time. And it wasn't fun to be on the receiving end, but it was more because I knew she was felt convicted that, yeah, this is what I had to do. And I think what also helps us to explore opportunities is having a joyful outlook about the situation. If we don't think that it's possible, then it's difficult to change a situation. So, to reflect on what brings you joy and who could cheer you on. Again, I'm really enjoying this session that I had with Michelle Price yesterday. So check her out. And she gave me a sidekick, and I picked Anne of Green Gables, Anne with an E, bosom friend. So, what bosom friend or whoever is in your corner can cheer you on, light a spark. Electricity is also about connectivity and having a contained flow, because if fire is exposed, then the sparking is dangerous, right? So, I like that this is positive and negative, because we have to be in balance and in alignment. If you're only expending energy and never recharging it, you will get drained. So try and find situations that re energize you. And for me, I'm going to find a situation that rehydrates me. Have you had water today? All right. So then, if to move forward, what's a potential way to do that? What are some of your options? Okay, this is fun. We have Skiddo. Skiddo is a grass type Pokemon energy. It's like a little goat, and it has a mane of leaves. And Skiddo looks to be literally skidding to a halt among some trees. So that's one thing you can do is stop. And Skiddo has a seed bomb. So when I think about this, it could be planting new pathways. It's thought, it's thought to be one of the first Pokemon to live in harmony with humans and has a placid disposition. So when we're thinking about healing, you can think about what are some seeds, tiny baby steps that you can plant to move forward with your healing. That's one option. Pause, plant seeds, do something to ground yourself. This is a grass type Pokemon, so that is grounding energy. It's also green, and green generally is associated with the heart, which ties in well to healing. So you can tap into things that make you feel safe. And when we go back to the Plusle, the joyful Pokemon, what fills your heart with joy? What makes you happy? The other thing you could do is probably nothing. And here we have Tierno. Tierno is a supporter, and he is a large, pale person with kind of a pineapple hairdo, wearing a shirt, looking around. There's all these chairs in a village, and he's just kind of sitting there thinking about things. So that's something else you can do. You can sit with yourself and not take any active steps towards that, and nothing will change, but maybe it will give you data to make it change. So that's another thing you can do. And maybe what's something more action oriented? Oh yeah, we have Makuhita. Makuhita looks like a big yellow sumo robot walking through the forest. It's a fighting type Pokemon, and it has red glowing ears. Makuhita looks large and in charge. It's drawing on your strength and being willing to tackle the situation and move forward. So that's another way you can do is literally take a step forward. So this one was brought in from another region, but now the Makuhita from Alola, fictional place in Pokemon Land, are more famous. And I think even though this is a fighting type Pokemon card, it's a yellow figure. So I think that brings in some of that energy and excitement from the other the other things in this particular spread. So we don't have to bite people's head off. And maybe if someone is trying to bite your head off, give them a little grace. I'm not saying to stay in a dangerous situation, but explore that with curiosity. Why are they trying to bite my head off? Is it something I said, or is it something more indicative of the space that they are in? Going back to those hidden undercurrents that we've had throughout the day and proper spending of our energy. Do we want to get in a fight with people, or do we want to maybe step back and understand where they're coming from and try to also create a healing space for the interaction other people have with you? It gives us good things to think about as we go through our day ahead, our week ahead, time ahead with other people. Another thing that I would like to explore today is about achieving what people say are impossible goals. And I believe it was Nelson Mandela that said, it's impossible until it's done. So for those out there that are trying to accomplish impossible goals, let's take a look of what can help you in that situation. So what is happening? We have a grass Pokemon energy card. This is a green card with a green glowing sphere and a stylized leaf. So for people trying to do impossible goals, I would get a sense that you're trying to shift your environment. Grass is earth, environment, plants. Maybe plant yourself in a new and nurturing space. It's not as easy to just pick up and go, right? Even doing a garden is requires work. You have to prepare the soil. You have to remove the weeds. If you're planting a new life for yourself, you have to prepare a way forward, looking at unearthing the rocks and the obstacles. Do you have a good foundation? Do you need to get, additional potting soil? Do you have the seeds to plant? Have you found a good environment? Like some plants need a lot of direct sunlight, other plants that won't work. So what's happening right now could be you are trying to plant yourself in a new situation, whether it be a new job, maybe you need to move. I definitely have some friends that are trying to move. So that is maybe what is happening and a situation to think about. And that sounds great, but then what's preventing this? What are some of the obstacles? And funny enough, we get another grass energy Pokemon card. I think I'm on the right track when we're talking about what are the obstacles to planting. Do you have land? Do you have space to plant? If you don't have land, what creative things can you do? For example, people that don't have a yard, they might do container gardening. And what can you accomplish with the constraints of a container? Perhaps you might not be able to plant one particular species, but you can plant another species of plant. How can you take the best advantage of the situation that you're in? If you don't have seed, can you propagate it from something else? Like I'm curious in my personal life about growing blueberries. And there's a gentleman on YouTube or Instagram, but this gentleman is always talking about don't throw away, you can plant it and make a new thing. So I hope to get some organic blueberries that hopefully haven't been genetically modified to not grow, because there are some plants that's part of the thing, so you have to go to the store and buy them. So perhaps with an organic blueberry, because I did that with an organic, I can start a blueberry seedling. So just think about the resources that you have for your situation. Yes, you have obstacles, but don't look at them as all of the things that are in the way. Again, I like to bring in the aspect of play. So think of those obstacles as a video game. How would you navigate that if this was a boss battle? What tactics could you use? What has worked? What hasn't worked? And thinking about trying out new things. My friend Ekua Kant talks about a testing mindset. So when you are faced with the obstacles, what are different ways that you can go about it? If you don't have the money to buy fancy gardening equipment, can you repurpose some of the things that you already own to serve as something to till the soil? Can you use, like, there's old fashioned technology of maybe you take a water bottle and you fill it with water and stick it in the side upside down, and that's a way to water things. The internet, if you have access, maybe you can go to the library if you don't have it in your home. Hopefully you have access to a library, asking other people that have successful gardens. So the obstacles are there, but there is also a way to overcome it. So what can help us to overcome these obstacles when we're trying to do the supposed impossible? And we have the Tower of Darkness. This is a trainer Pokemon card, and I really don't like the word, but we'll call it the Wood is Dark. It looks like a pagoda. It's a multi-level pagoda tower. There are ramps on the side, and there's a giant bear up top. Now, the Tower of Darkness is a training camp, basically, for my research, for one particular type of Pokemon. And it is set up with different levels to get that Pokemon ready. So I think another thing that could help us is our mindset around the obstacles. And since there is this element of what I refer to as those underlying systems that are out there, and some are absolutely designed to keep you down, but there's also the systems that run in your head, the self-talk, and that can change the opportunities that you see. When I started doing these lives, I had to check myself, self-talk, that nobody's going to show up and maybe nobody will write anything in the comments, and that's fine. I haven't had any questions in the comments today, but I think I know I have explored some topics that nothing else are helpful to me. And I know people like me out there. I know there's people that are trying to do impossible things, people that are tilting at windmills, people trying to affect change for the injustice that they see. And it's not impossible. We might just have to work together to make this happen. So part of the things that could help us is training our mind around what is possible and what is impossible. I'm a big fan of Alice in Wonderland and the adage of try and believe 10 impossible things before breakfast. And as we prime our mind possibilities, I mean, look at what we watched in early cartoons. And we have almost flying cars, we have self-driving vehicles, we have a knowledge base that fits in the palm of our hands. Those things we might have thought were impossible, dreamed it, someone imagined it and made it happen. And that comes from a place of curiosity. Be curious about your situation and don't listen to what everyone has always said. It's always been done this way. Maybe you will be the person to find a new way of doing things, to find your way of doing things. I am approaching this world. I'm doing things my way. I'm using things that weren't meant to be used in a certain way, but gosh darn it, it works for me. Where I work, we do something called 5S. It's more of a workplace organizational thing. And I'm like, why not do that for my mind? Why not do that for being overwhelmed? And if you're having overwhelm, you can reach out to me and we can work on that. But okay, so we are trying to plant something new, There's definitely some challenges in setting up the soil and creating an environment where our plants can thrive, and by de facto, our cells can thrive. So we're training ourselves with the mindset, how can we move forward? Okay, so we have Stunfisk. This is an energy Pokemon card, and it just looks flattened by the weight of its world. um, that's hilarious. And some of its tools are revenge. And when I see that, that comes to mind. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Sometimes the best revenge to your haters are just doing what you said you were going to do and being successful. So it conceals itself in the mud of the seashore. Then it waits. When it touches it, it delivers a jolt of electricity. So again, our perception can change. I first look at this situation and feel crushed by the weight of the world. And that's probably because of my idea about what is impossible. And it can feel crushing and overwhelming. But when I read a little bit about the card, this flattened thing is by design. This is a tactic and strategy of the sunfisk to wait for its prey to come to it. And I think a lot of times we fight so hard, going back to this idea of fighting energy, we fight so hard to make things happen, and it's not working for us. Whereas if we paused, gave ourselves some time to process our situation, you can think of a solution that's been there long. It was a couple of years ago. My family wanted to go to Orlando. Yeah, we wanted to go to Orlando, and we were trying to figure out the logistics of it. And the two adults, we were figuring out this so hard. You could see the steam coming off our heads to try and make this happen. And our, I think she was 5 or 6, just said, "Why don't you pick them up?" It was so obvious. It was so obvious. Like someone could drop the first person on their way to their job and then just pick them up. It was an obvious solution, and we couldn't see it because we were trying so hard to come up with an answer. And if you walk away from something, you can get the answers you need. When I started my very first live, my kid was super frustrated with their homework. And going through the live process, I knew that this was something they had to learn how to figure out when they hit these roadblocks. And it's not from lack of tools and resources. A lot of times you have the tools and resources, but if you don't avail yourself of them, then you're just going to be frustrated. So reflect on, are there things that I already know that can help me? And maybe it's a muscle I'm not familiar with. Maybe I haven't tried it before and I want everything to be perfect. Perfectionism can get in the way. And so my child figured out, I'm hitting my head against the wall. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to go do something different. They decided to play Pokemon. They decided to give themselves an outlet of fun, release. And then they came back to the situation and they were in a different headspace and able to be more successful with their homework. So it could look like you're being crushed by the weight of the world. I'm holding up the card again for those that can't see me. Or it could be a strategic plan. Truly depends on your mindset and point of view. And again, revenge is living your best life. So I want to encourage those of you who are being told it can't be done or it's silly to have this dream. I will rejoice with you when you have your revenge of living the life that you dreamed of. Okay. No questions. Again, reminder to stay hydrated. And I'm reminded from the last card that There's a lot of ways that you can tackle a problem. One of my favorite ones when you're trying to hit a goal, so we go back to the same goal of achieving the impossible. One of my favorites is called Stop, Start, Continue. So I'm going to pull a card for stop. I'm going to pull a card for start, and I'm going to pull a card for continue. But we're not going to do them in that order. How we work is we start with continue. And this is the Steel Pokemon type energy card. It is a deep gray card with a glowing metal sphere that has a inverted triangle, and there are brackets on the corner. So when we're trying to do impossible things, when I think of steel, I think of literally having nerves of steel, or steel in your spine, being able to withstand storms that are going to come against you when you're trying to do something different, when you're trying to push against the norms or the status quo. You need to have that strength and flexibility. Steel is a very flexible material. It's light. I think of ideas of agility. So continue not giving steel is having determination. So I think what could help you is to be determined that you're going to see this through. The stop card, we get the lightning Pokemon card, a lightning energy card. It's a yellow card with a glowing yellow sphere and a lightning bolt. And I think it's really nicely with steel. Yellow is also, from just a pure point of view, electricity needs to conduct it. So stop shorting yourself out. Don't short circuit your dream. But yellow for me is also about empowerment and joy. So stop doing things that disempower you on this quest. That might be stop listening to other people. Stop doing things that short circuit your joy. Stop doing things that don't allow you to flow. Those are some of the activities in your life that you can think about that you want to stop doing. And when we stop doing those things, it opens up the space for where we want to start. And we have Nuzleaf. This looks kind of like a landbound mosquito. It's a little bug with a sharp, pointy nose. It has a leaf for a hat. Its face kind of looks like a mask. Its hands are boxing gloves, and it has, I don't know, kind of white pants or legs, because it doesn't seem to be wearing pants. And it is very powerful. It looks energized. There's like a green glow behind it. And this is a grass energy card. So start doing things to help and nurture yourself. Start standing up for yourself. Its energy is pound and clear the room. Nuz is not having it. According to the Pokemon card, which I cannot read, it lives deep in forests with the leaf on its head. It makes a flute whose song makes listeners uneasy. Continue to show up for yourself and center your feelings, not the feelings of people. Other people should be uneasy by the things that you're trying to accomplish, and that's not your problem. Nuzleaf is not having it. Nuzleaf is standing in its own power, ready to clear away its opponents. And I get this idea of just imagining what that future looks like, so that when people try to short circuit you, you have something to hold on to keep you going, to energize you, to set you up for success. It's also this card, you choose a supporter. So start asking for help from other people. And that's hard to do. I've seen some of you do that. Like, I'm trying to do this. Does anyone have advice? That's something you can start doing. I need XYZ. Can you help me with that? Or do you have any ideas on how I can accomplish this? If there's anyone that's done it before, start asking for their knowledge and expertise. You might have to pay someone to do that, but start thinking about how to empower yourself. Again, we want to stop disempowering ourselves and start tapping into the personal power that we have, whether it be power to respond instead of react, the power to hone in onto what autonomy we have, the power to be creative about our situations. What talents and gifts do you have that can help you with your resources, can help you to withstand the storm? I'm holding up the Steel Energy Pokemon card. So that's another way to look at how to accomplish what is important to you, to do it anyway, even if other people are telling you it's impossible. Embrace inner Nuzleaf. Embrace your passion, your determination, your will for something. We want to break the cycles. We want to get off that hamster wheel and do something different. Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change unless you change. And again, there's been so many examples of people that said this is impossible and they did it. So start doing it anyway. Easier said than done. I totally get that. But what happens if you stay the same? If you don't try, you for sure are not going to do it. If you don't take the steps and make an effort. I didn't want to start a business. Oh, that's impossible. And one of my friends said, I'm starting a business. You want to do this with me and see how I'm doing it? I said, okay. And then I had a business, uh, just trying to open up a business bank account. They told me that I had to provide certain things. And I said, why? It's not necessary. It's not required by law. You don't need that. I don't want to put my public information out there. And they're like, well, then you can't bank with us. Then I said, fine. I'm going to find a bank that will let me do what I need to do within the law. And I did. And it took several times. I called, I don't know, maybe 10 banks until I found one that allowed me to do what I needed to do. I provided the paperwork I needed to provide and only what I needed to provide. So they told me it was impossible and I made it happen. This reminds me, I had my car was totaled years and years ago, and I did not want another car payment. And I went to the dealer and I said, this is what I want to pay. This is what I'm looking for. I do not want a car. And they laughed at me. And I took my business elsewhere. And then I went to, I don't want to shame them, but so I went to a dealership of a brand that I don't like, but I was there, it was next door. And I met a little gentleman, I believe his name was Kingston. And well, he wasn't little, just he was younger. So I just, anyway, I told Kingston what I wanted. And Kingston said, we don't have anything like that here, but there's going to be a giant auto show coming up in one of the stadiums. I'm going to keep an eye out for you. So Kingston didn't think that what I wanted was impossible, and what I wanted wasn't impossible. And he gave me a call, and we went to the stadium, and there was the ugliest car in the world because the paint was bad, but the engine was pristine. You could have eaten off of it. It had low mileage. It had working air conditioner, and it was within my, and all I had to do was fix, like it had a film on the back, so I kind of had to fix I forget what that's called, the tinting, but that was within my budget. So they told me it was impossible, and I found someone that was aligned with me that believed that what I wanted could be accomplished. So I accomplished to help me, and I got exactly what I wanted. So next time, what I learned from that is define your dream. Instead of just saying I want a Honda or Toyota and it needs to have low miles and run and work, I could have also said, and I want it to look nice. And I'm pretty sure I would have defined that as well. I hope, nope, I'm not hoping. That is going to help you. Changing your mindset will help you. Believing that you can do it will help you. It starts here. And be open to what the outcomes might be. It may not look like exactly what you wanted. Be willing to pivot and maybe take a detour and different way. And you might end up in a place that you hadn't expected that's even better than your original point of view. Thank you all for joining. I'll see you tomorrow for the next session and have a great day.